Good afternoon, Trevor. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Zaki, and yourself?
I am very well, thank you. So today, Trevor, we decided that we'll call you up for a conversation around the IBM mainframe. You and I have been working together for many years, and I thought it would be great to get some of your insights around the mainframe. Before we do this, Trevor, do you just want to tell us a little bit about your current position? What is it that you do?
Okay, I'm doing a little bit of quite a bit of things. For a start, I do support a customer running the DB2 environment, which is, I wouldn't say taxing because it's what I've been doing for the last 40 years, I guess. And obviously helping out the development teams with COBOL issues, JCL, jobs running, batch processing, interfacing with the mainframe in general. And I have another customer where I'm doing some COBOL development as well. So I haven't lost that bit. Although I haven't done COBOL for many years, it's not a difficult subject and it's something that I enjoy doing. So this is now obviously a production environment rather than just me playing with the language. But yes, it's something that interests me a lot, and mainframes as a whole interest me a lot. I mean, that's what I've based my career on for the last 40 years, as I said.
Perfect. Trevor, I've known you since 2015, and you've been our primary mainframe trainer. And looking at the feedback that we get from our students, they absolutely love the content sharing with you. Tell me a little bit about the first time you've worked on the mainframe device. Can you recall that far back? What was it about?
It was probably the mid-1980s, straight out of university, my first job. In those days, obviously, there weren't any other devices other than mainframes. So if you wanted a career in IT, you had to be involved with the mainframe somehow. And fortunately, I just come out of university and had this idea of becoming a developer along the way. So, yep, I jumped into a COBOL opportunity, was writing code, supporting batch jobs right from almost day one, I guess. And that was on a really, compared to today's technology, I guess that was a tiny little mainframe. I mean, it was barely the size of a PC, if you think about it, what it could do, but it was a massive machine. And there were a big organization and about 150 people all supporting that environment. So, you got to know all the disciplines, you got to know from operations to networking and storage and everything. You had a hand in all of that. And soon after that, I moved into the systems team where I got to know how to create a ZOS machine, how to set it all up, configuring it, the KICS interfaces, DB2, all of the add-on bits and pieces. So that for a long time was, my chosen career, and I really enjoyed it thoroughly.
Well, there must be something very good in it if you still have the tenacity to keep at it, right? For 40 years, Trevor.
Well, the mainframe has changed in 40 years and it's actually become amazing. It's becoming something. Well, I wouldn't say it's useful now, it's always been useful, but it's becoming even more and more exciting with every new thing that IBM brings to it.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the mainframe now compared to the mainframe that you worked on 40 years ago?
Okay, I'm not going to try and make jokes about paper tape and punch cards because everybody's read about those jokes. Yes, I was there at the time, but let's not dwell on that. I think in the early days, your mainframe was your batch processor. You got documents in, you got transactions, whichever way they came in, and you processed in batch format. You updated master files and produced invoices and printouts and all sorts of things like that. Whereas, as we've advanced, as the mainframe's changed, they've added technology that really position it as a centralized server within an organization. It's still doing all those things. It's still the mainstream or mainstay of a batch environment because of the fast transaction processing and the huge resources that we can throw at the engine. But it's changing. Now, the early days, yes, you had sort of, if you were lucky enough to have an online system, which did come in a bit later on after I joined, you had an online day and you closed off your data sets and you started a batch run and you followed that through till 2 o'clock in the morning and that was your day, and you started up again the next morning where people could now get back on and start capturing again. And pretty much that was the mainstream or mainstay of how mainframes worked in those days. And slowly but surely we moved into an online environment. So now you got a database there that was in real time. You could update it, run transactions against it, produce documents. And that was a big change. And of course, the technology changed from 24-bit machines to 32-bit machines to now 64-bit. So the environment got more and more complex. And I think when you were producing or purchasing a mainframe 40 years ago, it was a huge outlay. So you needed to get as much out of it as possible. And so all of the IT, whatever it would be, was put onto the mainframe. And all of those systems became so integrated that pulling them apart again, which is what I see these days, has become a very, very difficult maneuver for companies that have been involved with mainframes for all of these years. And that is a big difficulty. But yes, the early mainframes batch moving into an online environment, and then slowly but surely opening up that infrastructure where it was a local network. So you sort of had a closed-off network of terminals and online systems. And then finally, when they made the push to open it up into a sort of HTTP environment, where we're starting to produce, a server-type workload where you could connect from other devices, from PCs or AS400s or whatever it is, you could now start running jobs or environments where not all of the processing was done on the mainframe, but it was still central to the whole process.
Would you say that for someone coming new into IT, wanting to learn the mainframe, would you recommend it as something that's very relevant and still current in today's day and age?
Very good question, that. Maybe I'm biased, but yes, I would say so. It is, I wouldn't say it's the most easy environment to get into, but you must realize that it's very specialized. Because of all of the capabilities of the mainframe and the tight integration of all the environments, as I've said, you've got to sort of specialize in just one area. Nobody's going to come in and know the mainframe from end to end and know every discipline in there, very quickly. It's going to take a while. I think that is one of the arguments against the mainframe, that it is so complex. But taking one environment at a time and sussing out how that works, how it fits in, what it incorporates, that is probably an easy, fast path into mainframe technology. So you've got to look at maybe storage. You define where your data sets are going, how storage is being used, if it's magnetic devices or whatever types of storage you're using, and then possibly looking at networking issues. As I said, opening up into the World Wide Web is one aspect of that. Security is huge on the mainframe. It is probably the most secure environment to work in because of all of the stuff that's built in at hardware level, operating system level, and software level. The mainframe is incredibly difficult to intercept, to break, to get into, and that's what makes it quite special, I guess. So security is a big idea. You've got the operations side, running your jobs, making sure the mainframe's there, responding to messages, alerts, looking at how the performance is behaving, those sort of aspects. And then development. Development is still happening on the mainframe. I know I keep referring to COBOL as an old language, but it's relevant language. It still is under maintenance. IBM is still enhancing that language and providing new features and facilities. It is suited to a mainframe, definitely. I mean, that's why it's so pervasive, and that's why it's so useful to organizations that run mainframes. So there's a lot of different areas.
So speaking about the organizations that run mainframe, I mean, I know about the South African market largely because that's where we've been operating as Skills Alliance, but I'm sure, globally it's massive. I know that there are a lot of the large enterprises, finance houses that are running the mainframe and have had it for years. Is it something that could be easily replaced in their environment if they decided they did not want to continue with the mainframe?
There are two aspects to that. Okay, I'm not even going to repeat myself about the security because that does play a big role. But because it's such a, the nature of the resource, the whole virtualized environment that runs on the mainframe, it is supporting huge volumes of transactions simultaneously. And not only that, but not only the huge number of transactions, but huge resources, databases that are terabytes in size, or even multiples of terabytes in size. And you've got a database application that is referencing data in this massive database at sub-microsecond responses. So you've got the huge number or huge volume of connections, huge number of transactions, and that can't be replicated easily into another environment. Yeah, sure, we've got Kubernetes and the sort of rise of the new sort of landscapes that are coming through with server technology now. But I don't think that the horsepower, the sheer horsepower of the mainframe can ever be replaced as easily as people might think. So large organizations, and you'll be surprised which ones do end up running mainframes or where mainframes actually exist. Yes, definitely the big financials, banks and insurance companies, healthcare providers, all of those definitely because of the volumes of the transactions that they're running. But there are some other ones that you might not be aware of. Internet service providers that are using mainframes to deliver that connectivity. The sort of, I'm not sure of the terminology now, but the main connectors within the mainframe, within the internet are running on mainframes, not servers. So
it's interesting.
Where mainframes can appear and where they're actually being used.
So would you say that cloud is not a threat? The new cloud environments that, the big buzzword, we're all moving to the cloud and let's get cloud ready. Is cloud going to replace the mainframe? Can you see this happening?
This has been asked of me quite a few times already. I don't say yes easily for the reasons I've just given, the complexity of the applications. Yes, we can move an application into the cloud where it's suited. So remember, your mainframe in most organizations with the mainframe have got payroll systems and HR systems and asset management and transactional systems. All of those are all running together on that same mainframe. Now you're saying, well, let's take one application and move it out. Okay, that's fine, as long as it doesn't depend on other resources. You might have an AI system that you want to run some analytics against, or a big database where you want analytics. Now that might be a useful one to move up into the cloud, not because the processing is going to be any faster, because maybe you want to consolidate assets into a convenient place, and the cloud might be that, to save yourself from buying storage and doing all of those things. It might be a natural progression to get all that data, move it from your transactional systems up into the cloud and process your analytics there. On the other hand, you could say, let's take client-facing systems and make them, cloud enabled, because all of that infrastructure is sitting there already. That connectivity, those cloud providers have got all that technology and they understand the internet and how the internet works. So yes, customer-facing applications, move them up there. But your base transactional systems, I still believe, will maintain within the mainframe environment, definitely.
So we agree that the dinosaur is here to stay. It's not going extinct. So. All right, so I think that answers the last question we had in terms of the mainframe does still matter.
It does. I'm not going to knock the cloud because it definitely has uses and it's useful for so many different things. But I've seen some reports about, customers throwing everything they have into the cloud and then deciding that maybe they've overstepped and they need to pull back again, and that journey back to whatever technology they've got. It might not be mainframe. I'm hoping it would be. But all of the mainframe customers that I deal with, and it's not only local, but when I have a chance to speak to customers in Europe or elsewhere, mainframe is big for them. Mainframe is not something that they're looking at replacing or moving away from, because it's been doing its job for so long, so well, so efficiently. And yes, I think the detractors against the mainframe always say, but things don't happen fast enough on the mainframe. Agile processing, agile programming. You want to write a quick Java program and it's going to take over. And yes, if somebody gets given COBOL environment to work in, it's like 10 days and they've got a COBOL program running, and then they've got to do regression testing against all of the applications running. And it's a couple of weeks before, you see that change or that application now going live. And that is an issue that we faced with a lot. Yes, it is a long delivery process on the mainframe. Things could be changing there. If you think about what IBM's just released in the last 18 months where we can take workloads that are not traditionally mainframe based and move them into a Docker type environment that runs in an address space on the mainframe. And you can connect to it from a web browser. And so you've got things like, WordPress running on a mainframe, which is something that nobody ever thought of doing before. But now you've got the power of the mainframe and the security of the mainframe and the DB2, the database, the resources, the storage, and you're supporting a technology like WordPress, which nobody would think would be suited to a mainframe. But that's the sort of area we're moving into now, where because we're 64-bit, because we support Java, because Unix system services are there, and we've got this new environment with container extensions, I don't think the mainframe's sort of seen its end yet. Definitely not.
So if we're talking about things like WordPress running on the mainframe, I would think WordPress is something that is more aimed to not a very large enterprise, but more of a medium-sized enterprise. Would it be worthwhile from an investment point of view for a medium enterprise to consider hosting, their WordPress sites on a mainframe?
Not for the expense of the mainframe itself. I mean, nobody's going to go out and spend those many millions to buy a mainframe just to run WordPress. There are better options than that. But I'm saying if you're an existing customer, if you're an existing mainframe, you could consider moving into that type of workload as well. And it's not just WordPress. I mean, let's think about it. If you know what Docker is and all the availability or applications that are available on images in containers, it's huge. And you're thinking about anything that used to be x86 that somebody might have recompiled as a mainframe container, you can now port into the container extension services and run it on the mainframe. So definitely, I'm thinking of Java workloads. Yes, we've got that already, but maybe Enterprise DB, MariaDB, those sort of things that are not traditional mainframe environments can run in a Unix or sort of Linux address space running on JS.
Let's look at a little bit of a case study. Now let's look at a bit of a case study, Trevor. I want you to think of the most complex mainframe environment that you worked in.
Currently. The one I'm currently working in, yes.
The one you currently, okay. So without disclosing any, confidential information, can you tell us a little bit about the complexities in this environment and the benefits of what the mainframe is serving for this enterprise?
I don't know how much I can actually say. It's a large-scale system. They have been running it for many, many years. So it is, some of the COBOL programs I've looked at in that environment have been live for well on 30 years and running without issues, I guess. They do support, a few million customers with financial issues. So we've got a transactional system that's feeding in. We've got asset management that's sitting there. We've got customer-facing environments as well. And obviously on the back-end side, once we've done all the processing, there are, huge reports that get delivered, customers that are kept up to date with whatever situation or statement they have. So it's pervasive across the entire organization. This one application is pretty much one of the key cornerstones of that application, of that customer. So this is a really, really important application for them. And as I said, it's been running for 30 years with, hundreds of millions of rands in assets being processed every single day on this environment.
So we can confirm that the dinosaur remains relevant because it is robust and reliable, right? And it does what it promises.
Definitely.
That's good. On that lovely note, Trevor, I think we will conclude. I hope that we've recorded enough for our viewers to enjoy some of the information. And yes, if anyone needs to learn a little bit more, they can contact Skills Alliance. We've got an array of training courses that we offer with the mainframe. So if you guys want to hear a little bit more from Trevor, please do get in touch. Thanks for your time, Trevor.
My pleasure. Thank you, Zakia.